Tesla Model 3 has been the hottest car ever sold in the electric car industry. It's actually one of the most popular cars to be sold this year, and there are a lot of good reasons for it. But today I have someone on the show who I never thought would buy a Tesla Model 3, and as a matter of fact, he was scheduled to be here anyway because he is InsideEvs contributor Tom Moloughney. Today we usually do our segment called Plugged In with Tom Moloughney, and he kind of mentioned it in the last week's segment that he decided to move forward and get one, which really shocked me. So I figured we should talk about it today. I have a million questions. I thought he was going to go for something else. So he's going to be here in just a couple of minutes, and I'll pick his brain about it coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric.
Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. Just like I mentioned, today is Friday, so Plugged In with Tom Moloughney. We usually discuss a lot of different issues. As if you followed this segment and if you followed his writing at the InsideEvs, you would notice that he gives a lot of coverage to alternative brands. When I say alternative to Tesla, right? I think his goal has always been to kind of give a fair and sort of balanced coverage to non-Tesla cars, because there are quite a few of them that are coming out there from startup manufacturers and from legacy manufacturers. And that's one of the reasons that I enjoyed having him here, because we discussed so many other alternatives that are coming out this year. So this is why I never in a million years thought he would actually go for a Tesla. So now, I definitely see why he did it, but I also have some questions why he did it as well. I myself just canceled my reservation for the Model 3, but for other reasons. And I turned my Model S yesterday, and I really don't know what I'm going to replace it with. So I'll just drive my Volt for a little bit, and we'll see what happens. All right, I can't wait to bring Tom in and ask him a million questions. Before that, just a quick reminder that this video in this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out their all-electric SUV scheduled to come to the US and Europe next year, starting at only $45,000. Join the list of reservation holders like myself, over 50,000 around the world. It costs $0 to do that, about 60 seconds of your time. I don't know why you wouldn't. So go to the description of this video to do just that. All right, without further ado, Tom, welcome back to the show. Tell me.
Good afternoon, Alex. So
Hey.
yeah, joining the Tesla family.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you mentioned this at the end of last segment, and I had a million questions in my head, but that's not what we were talking about. All right, so correct me if I got this out, wrong, but I always thought of you as somebody gives a lot of coverage to cars and brands who produce electric cars, other than Tesla, because everybody covers Tesla, and you wanted to concentrate on other possibilities and alternatives to people. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I think you and possibly some of my other readers might take that as believing that I'm not a fan of Tesla, and nothing could be further from the truth. I love what Tesla's doing. They're driving the industry. We wouldn't be as far as we are in electric vehicle adoption without Tesla. But my point of view was that Tesla gets so much coverage from so many news outlets. Everyone's writing about Tesla. Everyone's blogging about Tesla. Tesla gets the most clicks, let's face it, the articles. So I mostly focused on what a lot of the other automakers were doing with their electric vehicle programs and didn't write too many articles about Tesla. And I can understand why people might look at that and say, hey, Tom doesn't cover Tesla. He must not like what they're doing for whatever reason. But nothing could be further from the truth. I love Tesla, love what they've been doing, and I'm going to be joining their family now.
All right. Well, so let's talk about the reasons why you decided to pick the car, and then maybe later we'll talk about what other alternatives you had and why you decided against them. What are the reasons? Give me top three.
Okay, well, as I mentioned to you earlier, I used to be a Model 3 reservation holder. I was a first day reservation holder back in when it first came out, and I guess was it 15 when we could no 16 March 31st. I canceled my reservation last year when they called me because it was still pretty early on, and first of all, it's because of there were the delays. I had to lease another car. I got an i3S, so I really didn't need a car at the time, and I still had some issues with some of the early build quality of the Model 3s, and I didn't want to drop $50,000 on a car that I didn't feel was rock solid, and I didn't feel that at the time. But I'm very comfortable with it now, and basically the car that I was trying to go between Tesla and it on deciding what to get was the new Nero EV. Now I know that they're totally different cars, and people are going to say, well, how could you cross shop a Nero with a Model 3? And I understand that they're different cars, and there's not going to be a lot of cross shopping. That only fact of the matter is they both are kind of long range electric vehicles, but they're totally different vehicle types. The Nero is more of like a Model Y competitor. I think it's more of a crossover with the hatchback, and then the Model 3 being a sedan. But I really like the Nero EV, and I really urge your followers to take a look at it, a hard look at it, if they're in the market for an electric vehicle. Now, of course, they have to either live in one of the 10 states that Kia is going to sell the vehicle in. They're only selling it in 10 states, or they'd have to go across state lines and import it, which a lot of people are doing now. At InsideEvs, we're getting a lot of reports from people saying, I drove 3 states, or I had it shipped across the country because I wanted to get it. Now, that actually played a factor in my decision making, and I'll tell you why. I have been writing throughout the years about the tax credit, and about how I don't believe that electric vehicles that aren't available in all 50 states should qualify for the tax credit. I think that manufacturers should be forced to sell the cars everywhere if they want to get a federal tax credit. And I'm also not a big fan of these compliance cars that are only available in CARB states. So as much as I love the Nero, I think it's a great EV. That was kind of a bit of a bitter pill for me to swallow, that I was going to now be buying one of the vehicles that I've kind of railed against for a few years.
Now
So
that's
when
very interesting that you say that. I know you said it before. You're essentially now considering Kia Niro EV and Hyundai Kona EV as compliance cars. Explain that a little bit, because I've kind of at first I was like, wait, what? And then I started thinking like, whoa, maybe he's right. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So everybody has a different opinion of what a compliance car is. And I'm sure in the comments here, we're going to get people, telling me that I'm nuts, that it's not a compliance car.
I
It's a
don't
great.
have that kind of people commenting on my channel. Are you kidding me? It was really
Yeah,
nice
you
and
have
nice.
the good
Yeah,
internet, right,
yeah,
Alex?
yeah. That's
So
exactly right. Yeah.
in
No,
any
no,
event,
yeah.
everybody has their own opinion of what compliance cars are. And to me, part of qualifying a vehicle as a compliance car is that it's not available everywhere. The Kia and Hyundai, the Hyundai is guilty of this also with the Kona EV, which is also another really good EV. I actually kind of like the styling of the Kona a little bit more than the Nero, but the rear seating of the Kona EV has very poor rear leg room, and I need to take my elderly parents around on occasion, and I think it would have just been too tight for them, and that's what pushed me over to the Kia, because it's longer vehicle, has a lot more rear leg room, and both of those vehicles are only going to be available in about 10 states. So to me, that's a big box to check for compliance car. Now I know there's other boxes that you check too, super low volume. These vehicles aren't super low volume vehicles. Hyundai's been making about 5,000 Konas a month now, other than those 2 months I did, January and February, that you and I discussed, when they dropped down to a little over 2,000 a month. But that's for the world supply. So the U.S. is only getting, a few hundred to maybe 1,000 of these vehicles. And to be honest with you, they're too good of a vehicle to only send 1,000 or so to the U.S.
I
And
agree.
restricting the supply is part of being a compliance car. So
It's
while they're very good EVs, and I don't expect anybody else to hold manufacturers to my standard, I still put them in the bucket of compliance.
okay. So now let's get back to the Model 3. So tell us what you're getting and what is the total price for the car, and then maybe we can talk about some other alternatives that you decided against. And are you getting the autopilot?
So I'm not getting full self-driving.
Well, yeah, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, autopilot is included pretty much with
Yeah,
all of
I
them.
know it's confusing, Alex. So,
Really?
it comes with the basic autopilot. I'm not doing the full self-driving. Honestly, I think it's really cool. And I think that, like, the summon feature is such a cool thing to have, kind of like show off or press a button when you're in a shopping mall and the car comes and gets you. But, I kind of convinced my wife that I was going to be going for the Nero and would be spending somewhere around $38,000 to $40,000, and then get a full tax credit. So it would be at, in the low 30s. And then I just had to kind of be like, honey, I think I'm going to go $10,000 more and get a Model 3. So I think if I said I'm going to go $20,000 more and get the full self-drive, tack on the wheels and, some other things, then I think I might have gotten a little bit of a backlash. So I understand I know how far I can push it. And so my build is $51,700, which is in itself pretty darn expensive. And I feel lucky that I'm able to afford a vehicle that costs that much. And I didn't really need to go for the autopilot, honestly, or the full self-drive. I probably wouldn't use it too much because, in my opinion, and I haven't driven with it yet, so this is just my opinion. When it comes to market, it's probably going to be a fantastic option, but it's still not going to be able to do everything that a full self-driving car can do. The problem is it does so much of it so well, like 95% of it, and can handle 99% of the situations, that I'm afraid I might get complacent and expect it to be able to do everything and maybe not pay attention when I should be, and could have a problem. I'm sure that's going to happen when this gets released. I'm not saying that I don't think it should be released. I think it's part of progress. I think it's what Tesla, somebody has to be the first one to push the envelope like this. But I just hope that the owners that have it are responsible, pay attention, and let the car do the full self-driving, but always be ready to grab that wheel and take over if some freak thing happens, which we all know happens on the roads.
Yeah. Okay. So no full self driving. I mean, I agree. I think it's extremely cool, especially with the latest updates. My problem with it is that if I still have to keep my eyes on the road and hands on the wheel, what good is it to me?
Yeah.
And everything else like self parking and summon and stuff like that, it's mainly for the show off reasons. It's okay. I think
Yeah.
we're on the same page, and I also think it's very expensive. It was an extra 2-3 thousand. But paying, essentially $8,000 for that, to me, which is, a lot of times it would be 20-30% of the entire car. That's a little, I can't do that yet. Okay, so now, quick question, because now, okay, if you decided to go with a Tesla brand, we literally just did a video with Eli Burton of My Tesla Adventure, comparing the used Tesla Model S to a new Model 3. And, you can make a new video about it like every 3 months because things change now. Model S got a refresh. Now, let me show you one of the inventory cars that I've seen from them last week, pretty much in the same price range as you got it, right? So this is 47,000. It's got only 10,000 miles, so relatively new, 70 kilowatt hour battery, also without self-driving features. I would say this would be pretty close to what you got when you got your when you getting your Model 3. Explain the logic behind maybe not considering this car and still going with a Model 3.
Sure. So while I love the Model S, it's just too big of a car for me. I like driving small cars, and to me, the 3 is about as big as I like to go. As you know, and you've made fun of me in the past, I drive a BMW i3, and that's a small car. I enjoy driving small cars, and I don't have any children. It's just my wife and myself. So other than taking my parents around every now and then, I don't need a big vehicle. And the Model S, really, I just didn't consider it because it was too big. But if I were to consider it, I would definitely want to get the newer model without the nose cone. I'm not a fan of that nose cone.
No.
When it's
Okay.
on the black Model S's, it's not that bad.
Exactly. I was just talking to somebody. Oh yeah, I was talking at the
Yeah.
Tesla showroom. You're right. Black on a black nose cone on a black car, not as noticeable.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and I just for the heck of it, I did look around while I was considering what to do. And the Model S's that I liked with the next generation seats, because I don't like the original seats in the Model S at all. The next generation seats without the nose cone, the new front end, the ones that I liked were all 55 to 60. And I said, you know what? It's less for me to buy a brand new Model 3, and the Model 3 suits me better. So that's why it really wasn't a consideration.
All right. Well, let's talk about a few things what's preventing me going back to Tesla and specifically buying a Model 3. Let's start with this simple one. Storage space. So, unlike almost all other electric cars on the market right now, they're mainly hatchbacks or SUVs. This one has a small trunk, and so, like for myself, I have a big bag of goalie gear because I play hockey. It's impossible for me. Even my Volt, which is pretty much my only carport now, has a hatchback, so I can jam all of my equipment there, and I can't do that with Model 3. What did it not bother you that it doesn't just have as much storage room?
Yeah, so that really isn't that big of a consideration for me. I'm not a hockey goalie, and while I do need to make shopping trips and whatnot, I don't regularly haul uh, that much stuff that the trunk in the Model 3 would be a problem. And I still do have a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck that I use for my business to plow my parking lot. So if I ever need to haul something really big, I have the pickup truck. But that gets very little use. I drive it like 2,000 miles a year, if that. And
See,
the
um, I got such a big backlash when I got on my Volt, even though I use less gas in it than like my mailman uses to deliver mail to me. So but I think I guess what you're saying is the reality is some of the things that we have to compensate for our electric cars are gas sometimes, and we can't fully 100% switch to electric no matter how much we want to.
Well, some people can. It really depends on what your life needs are.
Yeah.
With me, I need a pickup truck. I own commercial property. I plow the parking lot. It saves me a lot of money. Maybe when Rivian's available, I'll grab one of those if I can afford it and stick a plow on it, and then I won't need the gasser at all. But
Oh,
for you and your gear running around, you should really be checking out the Nero EV.
I
It's
am. I
got
am
a huge
absolutely.
amount of space in the back. So
Absolutely. But
that'll be funny if you end up with the Nero and I'm driving the Tesla, and
I
we
know, I know.
definitely flopped.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to some more hardcore stuff, which is the reason that I've owned Teslas for 7 years. I was one of the first Tesla Model S owners before any of this, YouTubers and fanboys even like knew how to spell Tesla. And I've taken a break now, at the very least. And the reason for that, and as I was returning my car yesterday, they reminded me one more time and made it very easy, is absolutely horrific ownership experience and specifically customer service. I mean, I'll just give you example from yesterday, but I can go on for hours. I pull up to the service area, and any other brand, we're talking about any other brand, you have somebody greeting you almost right away. With these guys, I stood there for a while. I finally walked in and I realized that from their desk, you can literally see my car. So they knew I pulled up. And I was like, you guys don't greet customers? And they're like, oh, we didn't have any appointments. I'm like, okay, but like you see me there sitting there. And anyway, it's in that, like I this, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of it as well. I think this is something that Elon Musk was literally addressing in the last earnings call. I think both of them. I think it's no secret. I run a pretty big Facebook group for Tesla owners. I approve posts, so I see a lot of people just dissatisfied with that. Now that you're jumping into that, relationship essentially with the brand, how are you going to handle this? Are you afraid that your experience might overshadow an amazing car that you're getting?
So you, as you know, maybe your followers don't know, one of the things I do full time is I work with Plug in America on their dealership engagement program, and we train dealerships how to sell electric cars. So I've got a lot of experience in the customer service end of electric vehicles, not with Tesla though, with pretty much every other brand that sells electric cars. And one of the interesting things I do before I'll do a training on a dealership is I'll visit the dealership before as a customer, and they don't know who I am, and I'll poke around and ask questions about the rebates and charging and battery life and all kinds of things like that, and see how they respond and how prepared they are. And surprisingly, I every now and then I bump into somebody that really knows his stuff, and it's encouraging. That's happening a little bit more and more than it did years ago. But generally, overall, the dealerships really there's a huge gap in information on their electric vehicles and their regular conventionally fueled vehicles. So now that I was going through the Tesla buying experience, I got a chance to feel them out. So while I know I can order the car by myself at home, I said, let me check out some of the Tesla stores. And I'm not going to name any names, but I'm here in New Jersey, so you can probably figure some of them out. So I stopped at a couple of the stores, and I asked some questions. And to my surprise, the people there weren't much better prepared than regular car dealerships.
What do you mean by that?
I asked was, I know that Tesla has the new Gen 2 mobile charger. So I asked, what comes with the car for charging? And I was told, well, we have this mobile connector. I said, oh, great. I said, so I can just plug it into a 240 volt outlet. And, oh, yeah, of course you can. I said, it comes with the connectors and everything, the plugs. Sure, it does. Yeah, it comes with everything, which, as you may know, it doesn't come with the 240 volt NEMA 1450 adapter anymore. You have to buy that. The Generation 2 mobile connector now only comes with the 120 volt adapter. And if you want to charge at 240 volt, you've got to buy the adapter. So I reiterated that question and said, oh, you're sure it has the adapter? So they opened up the frunk of a car that was there, and it had the adapter in it. And that was because that was the Tesla used to include it with it. And I guess this car has been sitting in their showroom for many, many months now. So it had the older version. And so I guess you could make that mistake. People are human. Tesla's been changing their rules so often. So my next question wasn't, and how much power will this deliver? Like how much what will it deliver to the car? And I was promptly told, oh, this will deliver 50 amps to the car. And I said, are you sure about that? Because I thought it delivered less. They said, no, this delivers 50 amps. Now I know the new mobile connector delivers 32 amps. The previous version would deliver 40 amps. But
yeah, that's what I have.
50 amps. If you had the 40 amp one, you had to install it on a 50 amp circuit, but it never delivered 50 amps. And again, for clarification, I said, really, it delivers 50 amps to the car? Yeah, and the car can take that? Yeah, the car can take it. It's really, so I said, the Model 3 was limited at 48 amps, and the standard range was 32. And they said, oh, yeah, that's the standard range is 32, and this one is 48. But, 50 amps is just Epstein 48, so it can pretty much take the whole thing. So I let it go at that. I didn't want to push the issue, but the charging right off the bat was a fail, and that's a little surprising. I thought maybe the buying experience would be a little bit better. The people would really know the product, is what I hear from a lot of people, and they really didn't know the product all that well. So now I go and place my order, and Tesla sends you an email. You have to fill out your address and your insurance information and all this to get ready for delivery. But I can do everything except the insurance, because you need the VIN. And at this point, I ordered it, I guess 9 days ago now. I only had the reservation number. I can't get insurance with the reservation number. So I was just curious on how long it would take to get the reservation number. To get a VIN. So I went on Tesla's website and got the 800 number or 888 number, whatever it was called up. I went through a couple sets of voicemails, and finally they said, okay, you're in New Jersey. We're going to connect you to the Springfield Delivery Center, because that's where I'll pick up the car. So they transferred me to the Springfield Delivery Center. An answering machine picks up. I said, how you doing? Tom Moloughney here. I ordered a car about 4 days ago. On the website, it says that the car will be delivered within 2 weeks. So, I know I need to get my insurance straightened out and all this stuff. So I'm just wondering when I'll get a VIN, because I need to have the VIN to get the insurance. So I left the voicemail and I waited 3-4 days, no response. So I went back on the Tesla website, and now I left an email. Same thing. I said, hey, I ordered the car a week ago. The delivery says within 2 weeks. So now I'm maybe a week from getting my car, and I just want to know when I'm going to get a VIN. I know maybe the VIN's not ready yet, but can you just give me a little direction? When am I going to get a VIN, so I know I can time everything and maybe get my check ready from the bank and whatnot. I left the email. No, that was 4 days ago. No response again. So, the buying experience, while it's very easy, you just go online, click, 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 enter your credit card, buy a car. Love that. Nobody likes going to dealerships. I don't love going to a dealership. But since then, there really hasn't been a great buyer's experience.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I always thought it was easy to give them money. It was really tough to receive the service back. As a matter of fact, I would say impossible a lot of times. And, all 3 of my cars had problems. And even my last one that I just returned had multiple problems. And I don't mind if the service is there, right? But as you can see, when you have an issue or a question, and on top of that, they create a new issue of not responding to you or treating you poorly, overall, I call it ownership experience, right? There's a car, but there's experience that comes with it, and it wraps around the car as well. So my question is, are you prepared for this? Essentially, what I had, an abusive relationship, if you will, with a brand. And I'm, as they reminded me one more time as I was dropping the car off, to really not miss them. And I brought it up to their service manager attention, which I realized was the very guy who was actually ignoring me when I drove up there. What are you going to do if this is going to continue?
So, Alex, I plan on enjoying the car. I think the Model 3 is a great car, and I won't let it get to me unless it becomes really an issue. I'm hoping that it improves. Maybe, you've got a lot more experience with them than I do, and maybe that's just how it is. I will say, though, I want to follow up and say I sent an email to my local Tesla shop, and I got a phone call back the next day. So that was good. And this was a local Tesla store. So they were very responsive. But the dealing with the main Tesla website it's just been a black hole so far. It's just been one-sided. I've reached out. Nobody's reached back to me. And, I'll be writing a long-term report on InsideEvs about the car. So every month or so, I'm going to do an update, my mileage, road trips I've taken, issues I've had, if I have any, things I like about the car. I might even test out some accessories and give my opinion on them. So, if I feel that the ownership experience isn't what it should be, you'll be able to read about it in my articles on InsideEvs.
All right, it's good to know. Now, one thing I forgot to ask you, and this has been kind of one of the things that have been stopping me and quite a few people from getting specifically Model 3 is the lack of the center display, right? The one that's behind your steering wheel. You only have a display to your right. There's no heads-up display. It does bother me. What do you think about that? Do you think you can get used to it, or you just don't care for it in the first place? What's your impression of that?
So you're going to laugh at me when I tell you, I thought about this for a little while, and I don't know if you realize, and I'm sorry, I should have sent you a picture of an i3 in dashboard ahead of time so you could have shown the readers, but I'm sure they can just Google it and look up online. So the i3 doesn't have a big driver's display. It doesn't have a dashboard in front of the driver. It has a steering wheel and it has a tiny little display that's very small and it's on top of the steering column. So it actually is like halfway to a Model 3. It doesn't have that big center console. So the funny thing is, knowing that I was thinking about getting a Model 3, what I did was I just taped a piece of paper over that little display there and drove for a little while not having access to it. Now, you could say, oh, it's unsafe. You didn't know what your speed was. I've been driving for, 35 years. I know how fast I'm going within a couple miles an hour. I didn't do it on a trip where I drove, 80 miles an hour on the highway. This is just kind of driving around town and whatnot just to see. And you know what? I didn't even miss it. I didn't realize how little I actually looked at that little display that really just shows my battery state of charge and the miles per hour. And it has, your blinkers when they go off. I know when my blinkers are on, I hear them clicking,
So what you're saying, so what you're essentially saying is that your BMW i3 have lowered your standards so much, you were absolutely 100% prepared to get a Model 3.
I think that's it. Not having a big dashboard. I'm used to just looking through the steering wheel at the windshield. And, like I said, if any of your followers are interested, just Google BMW i3 and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's no big center dashboard for the driver display. It's really just a tiny little screen that just has a little bit of the information like state of charge, range, and speedometer.
So, all right, and listen, I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to talk about it. I'm obviously interested, and the rest of my audiences, I'm assuming, is also interested in your, delivery experience, your first month, and so forth, and your first service appointment and stuff like that. For me, I have to say, I am not counting myself out of this either. How Tesla can get me with a Model 3 is to make it an amazingly awesome lease deal, right? If that happens, I will probably get it. I'm perfectly fine with a standard plus actually version of the car. Like it's got everything I need. The only thing is their lease deal is ridiculously expensive right now. It's about $100 more than it should be per month. But if I see something that they're really running a fair deal, I'm still in. So I might be we might be driving the same car because I would get it in black obviously as well. All right, man. Listen, I'm excited for you obviously, and I'm looking forward to hearing your delivery experience and everything else that happens in the future. Before we go, one thing that you're looking forward to as far as driving in a Model 3 in the next week or two.
So I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the supercharger network. The weird thing about it is, I've been driving electric cars now for 10 years. I was really one of the early adopters. I've been full-time driving electric cars since 2009. And all of my electric cars had about 100-mile range. And the funny thing is, I lived just fine with that. I didn't, where I live here, I just don't need to drive very far that often. But with the Model 3, now that I have that ability, maybe I'll just take some road trips, and just for the hell of it, just hop in and say, I'm going to drive 500 miles and check out the supercharger network. So I think that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
Awesome. And I don't blame you. Supercharger experience is also social experience. A lot of times that's where people like, hang out, meet each other and become best friends. So I'm looking forward to your stories as well. All right. Well, listen, just like I said, I've been shocked by this last time you told this to me. It does make sense now. And it's something for me to think about as well, because as you know, I'm trying to go with an alternative to Tesla because of the customer service. But maybe I should rethink that as well. So obviously,
They make great cars, Alex. It's you keep circling back to it. When it comes down to it, they really are, the best electric cars on the market today, and that's why I'm ended up in one.
not gonna lie, I absolutely agree. So, all right, well, thanks for stopping by again. Have a great weekend, and then I'll see you next Friday.
See you then. Thanks, Alex.
All right, guys. So a great explanation from Tom. I'm glad he's getting it. I'm looking forward to his ownership experience, and who knows, maybe I'll go back despite all of the issues that I had with them. It's man, I gotta tell you, I've never been so going back and forth. As you know, my lease expired yesterday. I returned the car, and I usually have something else lined up, and I'm still don't know. But my you know I should mention that my Volt has like no miles on it since I started leasing it in July. So I do need to put some miles on that thing. And I do love my Volt. I have to admit that as well. Don't forget to get on our VIP list where we feature an exclusive story every week. But now we're starting to feature what I call a deal of the month. And this is where we offer discount codes on some of the popular products. This month is going to be the Lighted T, the most popular product for Tesla Model 3. Maybe Tom decides to get it as well. It's on sale for $50 $50 off right now, but if you subscribe to our newsletter, we'll send you a code tomorrow actually for another $50 off. So now you'll enjoy $100 off of this accessory. So check that out and get on our list. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you to Tom for hanging out with me and giving me his perspective on his new purchase. Of course, if you want to catch up with him on InsideEvs, there's a link in the description of this video with all of his articles. All right, guys, other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.